Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Also down in New Orleans, of course, they're trying to pick up the pieces after losing to the Giants, blowing an 11-point lead with 8 minutes to go in the game. Absolutely unthinkable. But it was a performance where defensively they got gashed and gassed late, and Sean Payton on Monday met with reporters via teleconference and discussed that defensive game film.
There were a number of things. Number one, in our league, an 11-point lead is really just two scores. And, a couple of things we didn't want to have happen in that game were really to eliminate the explosives. Defensively, we weren't able to do that. They had a number of big plays, particularly in the passing game. It became harder to get pressure when it became more one-dimensional, just relative to timing of the ball coming out or some of the max protections. They were either spreading us out and throwing it real quick or condensing some formations with more of a shot play.
It's when you look at a game like Sunday, if there's something that maybe I would say stands out most, I'm curious how they looked at it on film. The Saints did not record a sack. There were only 2 tackles for loss. There were 6 quarterback hits, but they just didn't affect Daniel Jones enough, which is why he was able to throw 402 yards. So one of the conversations we'll probably start having to have at some point is Cam Jordan's productivity. And he's just not been effective so far to start the season, and he certainly had a downtick in production a year ago. I'm hesitant to just throw all of that sort of maybe blame on Cam Jordan. I don't want it to come across that way. Obviously, a year ago, Trey Hendrickson had this giant breakout season, and it made a lot of sense. Well, you have Hendrickson on one side, you put all the attention on Cam Jordan, and Hendrickson had one-on-ones. Is the same thing happening again right now? Well, theoretically, that would open up a spot for someone on the opposite side to generate pressure. It just didn't happen this week. Maybe the Saints get Marcus Davenport back this week. He's eligible to return from PUP, or IR, I should say. So possibly Davenport comes back. Maybe that helps. You have Tano Passanio, Carl Granderson. You have options there, but it would sure be nice to see Cam Jordan find some success in the pass rush as well. When you flip it over, Sean Payton talked about what they saw offensively.
There's a couple sequences where, we have a chance to, I don't want to say close out, but we have a chance to not only shift the field position in our favor, but take more time off the clock. And we weren't able to do that. We gave up a big return in the kicking game. So there are a number of things when you get in a position to possibly close out a game or put some distance between you and your opponent. We just weren't good enough to do it. And, collectively, it's something that when you watch the tape today, it's a frustrating loss, and nonetheless, it's still a loss. And that's really the point I was making yesterday, and it still remains, that game's over, but we got to learn from it.
The thing that is a little tough to stomach there when talking about the offensive performance and hearing Sean Payton saying they weren't able to put together drives and run clock. What they were trying to do is obvious, and it was the same thing that they did against New England. And late in that game, they were brilliant at just putting together a drive where they kept it on the ground and they milked clock and had first downs. They tried to do the exact same thing, and they had some success. Taysom had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Kamara had his best game. But there was no balance in the offense, especially late. And the really disappointing part is that if you look, Jameis Winston had completed 11 straight passes. He had completed 11 straight passes into the third quarter at one point. And the Saints ran 14 consecutive running plays. Did not even give him the opportunity to throw the football. So you have to start asking the question, at what point is Sean Payton going to trust Jameis Winston to take the handcuffs off and be willing to throw in any of those situations? And Sean Payton was asked something along those lines.
I think it's a little bit more on the game at hand, the game you're actually playing. Yeah, sure, there's a transition anytime, you have a player for X, especially a quarterback. And so, look, each game sets up differently, and how you want to play it can be completely different week to week. But I think there's a goal going into the game relative to what we feel like we need to do to win. And I think that can be different week to week. I don't think it's, I got to get used to calling plays now that, we've had this 5 weeks with Teddy. We've had it with Taysom. We've had it way back with Luke McCown. I think it's a matter of what you're wanting to do to win that game.
I could kind of buy that. And I could understand game plans being different week to week. Absolutely. But as of this point in the season, we still haven't really seen that. Jameis was 17 of 23 for 226 in this game. 17 of 23 for 226. He has been the model of efficiency in what they're asking him to do. He deserves more rope at this point. His passing attempts, 20, 22, 21, 23. Remarkably consistent what they've asked him to do, win or lose, be it the blowout against Green Bay, the blowout against Carolina, or each of the last 2 weeks that were more competitive. You're seeing essentially the same game plan. So while I understand Sean Payton saying, yeah, of course, you want the plan to be game specific, that argument doesn't hold water because it hasn't been. It's basically been the same thing each week. And eventually, whatever this team is going to be, they've got to trust him to stretch the field. Now, I get it. I'm also one of the guys, hands in the air, who said, just get to your bye above 500. Just get there at 3-2, come back healthy with Mike Thomas and Tre'Quan Smith, and your offensive linemen are back, and Onyemata comes back. Then your team is whole, and then you can see what it looks like. So part of me is willing to pump the brakes a little bit to say, okay, I get it, because you're so short-handed right now, you're trying to find whatever way you can. And if your known strengths are, you got a great defense, and Alvin Kamara is one of the best backs in the league, lean on that, and don't do anything that's going to cost you a game. I do get it. But if you are going to be a playoff team, you've got to be willing to let Jameis Winston throw the ball more than 23 times a game, especially when he's having a day that was as remarkably efficient as he was on Sunday. One more from Sean Payton, and this was on Jameis and his performance so far through 4 games.
Every one of us, Jameis included, I was encouraged. I thought he played well. And I think the number one thing, when you're able to, we knew we were playing a zone team, a zone pressure team with a lot of, safety off the slot pressure. I thought we had a good plan blocking some of those looks, and then we felt there were some good cavities relative to the passing game. We had the long touchdown called back for a holding. That's a tough matchup, really, for Trout. But I was encouraged with how he played. I was encouraged with his decisions, and I thought that's going to help us going forward.
That holding call was brutal. The holding call, which negated Kenny Stills' touchdown, would have made it 28-10, and that really would have sealed the game at that point. With a 3-score lead that late, it really would have been over. But it happened, and as disappointing as that was, the bigger mistake was Sean Payton letting Taysom Hill throw the football after that, and he threw the interception, and that turnover, that's where the game changed. Because you were in a position to at least get points there, up 11. You were in a position to at least get points up 11, and you blew it. So I said it all day Monday. This game is on Sean Payton. This loss is on Sean Payton. He's brilliant. And the Saints have won way more games because of Payton than they've lost. But this one's on Sean, and they got to regroup, and they got to go get this week in Washington. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.